and let me know here when here we go. Let me see something real quick. Give us 1 second, Coach. We've got a couple people get on here. So, coaches, thank you for joining us on short notice. This is the Run Up the Score podcast, and we're going live. We're actually live right now on Facebook. We're live on Twitter, and we're live on YouTube. So, we're going to be discussing basically how COVID has affected football and high school football players, recruiting, how it's affected college players. And so, guys, with us today, I have Coach Nick Hill, the head coach of SIU Carbondale in the Missouri Valley Conference. He's got a great program right now. They rank preseason top 25 in the country. We also have Coach Jeff Sims, the head football coach at Missouri Southern, formerly at Garden City. Some of you guys will remember him from his appearances on Last Chance Youth. And both of these guys are guys that recruit the St. Louis area very heavily and very readily. And I've talked to both of them extensively about COVID. And when we talk to the powers that be here, that I think one of the weird things here in the state of Missouri, and we've talked about this, is that everybody else in the state is playing except for the kids in St. Louis County now, because Dr. Eccles, who's in charge of the schools in St. Louis City, actually a couple hours ago just approved them to start playing. So we're kind of hoping that Stan Page follows suit and gives the county kids an opportunity to play. And so I think that one of the biggest arguments that comes up, or parts of the debate when you're talking about the situation, is that people want to know, how does this affect recruiting for guys? Like, some people think that it's not a big deal. So what I say to everybody is, the most known guys are the big time top 100 kids, right? The kids that are going to play in the SEC and the Big Ten. And there's not many things that affect guys like that in those situations. But for the guys who are the majority that are going to play FCS, Division 2, and even in a lot of cases, Group of 5, I'm going to start with you first, Coach Hill. How does those guys not being able to play in the state of Missouri or the state of Illinois? I know they're going through this in the state of Illinois as well. How do those guys not being able to play hurt their chances in terms of recruiting? And how have you been able to evaluate guys in the 21 class going forward?
Yeah, I think that, well, our evaluations have to be on what we had up to this point as far as, their junior year film. Obviously, there wasn't any, camps and combines and those type of things. So it's been hard to, I would say, like I was telling you over the phone, is almost 100% of our new offers off of senior film was from the states that kids are playing games. And you're seeing those kids. I mean, a couple kids that we offered this past week were senior year eval kids that we had, and a kid put on 25 pounds, and his senior year film looks completely different than his junior film. And kids in Illinois, which where I'm from Illinois, I played high school football, small town high school football. If it wasn't for my senior year of football, Coach Kill would have never talked to me as a junior. It was completely different. And so it's what kids just not getting that opportunity. It's tough to go out there. Obviously, your relationships with the high school coaches, but I don't think you're seeing many new offers to the kids. Now, we're still recruiting the kids that we had offers out on as from their junior year film and throughout that recruiting process, and we're still trying to actively get those kids, even though they don't have senior year film. But as far as a kid that maybe, and that's for a lot of kids, 15, 16-year-olds aren't fully developed football players. Their senior year film is some of our best players, kids that Jeremy Chin, the second-round pick, that's going to be an all-pro, and maybe, he's lead third in the NFL in tackles right now as a rookie that was on our team. as a junior, he was a skinny running back, and he ended up with two offers, us and North Dakota, and we ended up getting him, and he was a second round pick. If it wasn't for his senior year, we would have probably not offered him. And so there's a lot of kids out there that without their senior years, it's tough, and that's unfortunate. I feel like they should be playing and given the opportunities to safely find a way to play.
Coach Sims, what about you? What's your take on it? How do you feel like the class of 21 is affected in terms of recruitment, and how do you feel like it's affecting those kids' opportunities?
Well, I agree with everything that Coach Hill said. I would just like to add that with all the things where he said we didn't have camps, we didn't, kids aren't playing this.
I think Coach just got cut out. He must have went through a spot. Coach Hill, and continuing with that, what you said, you also are a quarterback guy. You're an offensive play caller. You coach the quarterback every single day. And I know that one of the biggest parts of evaluating quarterbacks is you seeing them throw live. Is it even possible right now for you to evaluate a guy that you would have playing quarterback if you couldn't get in there and watch him throw live?
I think it's tough. We're going through this right now. Even if it's a kid that is playing their senior year, maybe in another state where it's just the film, but you haven't seen them in person, or you're not able to get in the car and go down and watch them. It's tough. We haven't yet. We haven't put out, the kids that we've seen. Those are who we have offers on. So yeah, it's tough, and that's one of the positions too. You see a lot of growth from their junior to senior year, just in maturity and body, and kids getting stronger, and they completely, change who they are. So it's just it's tough for us coaches too to you have to go against some of the things that the boxes that you want to check on each kid when you're recruiting a kid. Right now, it's really testing you if you're going to stick to those, because some of them you just can't physically do.
Coach Hill, we got you back, and we're going to let you finish the statement that you were making before.
Thank you. And I apologize for that. The internet in the world, the Coach Hill is 100% right. What I'd like to add to what he said when he talks about camps and guys not playing now is that would make it difficult in more years. So let's say a player got injured and he wasn't able to play his senior year. That would affect his recruiting greatly. But in 2020, the NCAA has said that this year doesn't count. So our seniors and our juniors and our sophomores all are coming back. So we're not increasing our scholarship numbers. So there are more kids who want scholarships now than are scholarships that are available. So with the scholarship number getting smaller and you not being able to give additional film, that makes it a real challenge.
So, Coach Hill, let's touch on that with you as well. How do you manage your recruiting class when the NCAA is saying that basically this year doesn't count, and all of those kids could come back? How do you manage those? How do you manage those numbers with your recruiting class? And is it more favorable for you under the circumstances to have one of your seniors or older guys come back that normally wouldn't have, instead of bringing in a high school kid?
Yeah, I think number one, I think the NCAA that they did right by giving these kids an opportunity to have another year, and it's up to us, Coach Sims, to manage your roster, and you got to do a great job of that. I think that we would all agree that it's hard, like Coach said, saying all of the seniors are coming back, and right now 95% of ours are as well. That you spend 4 years, and we have our biggest fifth-year seniors. These are the guys that the fifth-year seniors right now are in our first recruiting class. So we got 14 of them here this is their fifth year. right here that they're missing out on this fall. Now we're going to get to play in the spring, but you spend 4 years developing a kid, an 18-year-old. Now he's 23, 22, 23 years old, and they're at the prime of their career where they're going to be playing their best. It's tough to tell them, hey, we've got to bring in a high school kid. You want to become a mature, older team. And that's where we feel like we're at. We've got 21 seniors. This would have been the most veteran team that we have. So managing that, you're always going to have some, attrition on your team. But it is going to be a small, like Coach hit it on the head. I mean, as far as there's just not going to be as many scholarships available at any level. This will be our smallest recruiting class that we've ever had from the high school level. And I believe that's across the board. So if that's just two of us talking, the hundreds of schools, Division I and Division II schools, there's just going to be less opportunities to go around.
How do you guys, because we're talking about evaluation process, but another huge thing about recruiting is building a relationship. I know that Coach Sims, I've had several kids sign with you. I've had 4 last year. Coach Hill, you've recruited a lot of my kids. And Coach, I feel like the kids that have signed with you, you've been able to build relationships with them and kind of get to know them and their families during the recruiting process. So by that being taken out as well, how hard is it even for you to make sure you're getting the kid that you want in your program or a kid that wants to be around you? It seems like it could be a high transfer rate also with this because we're not really getting to know each other in the recruiting process either.
I would agree. And I would also tell you, with what you're saying, is that as coaches, I've been coaching for 27 years. I'm used to a process, and I know how to find the right connection with kids into our school. But the process has changed so greatly that it's so new that you're kind of adjusting to the process, and as you go to the lower levels, very few kids can play in the SEC. So it's actually, I know this sounds silly. I believe it's easier to recruit at Mizzou than it is at Missouri Southern, and the reason it is, for example, let's say 10 kids in Missouri think about playing at Mizzou. Now they only have 10 kids to figure out who the best fit for their school is. Where at our school, actually Division II, there's a lot of guys who can play for us. But it's not about finding a guy who can play Division II football. It's about finding the guy that fits best at Missouri Southern. I tell our kids, we do not recruit the best player. We recruit the best player from Missouri Southern. And you need to have interactions with as much tape and opportunity to get to know the kids that way.
Coach Hill, what's your take on that in terms of the relationship with recruiting?
Yeah, I like Coach Sims. We talk recruiting every single day, and out of our commitments right now, we have 8 kids that committed in the 21 class, and we have those boxes that you want to check. Someone that you've met, someone that's been on your campus, someone that we were able to have a junior day before everything got shut down. Someone that's been a junior invite that came to games, met their parents, in-state kids. So I think, I was talking to Coach Took about this, who we're playing, who's, I played for Coach Took and talk a lot. I think you're going to see more misses in recruiting this year than ever before, just because that you're going to get a kid and you've never really ever met him. I mean, kids are going to be signing and you've never met him or their parents, or they've never even been to your campus. And that might happen every once in a while. A kid, makes it and never had been somewhere. But there's going to be a lot of that. And there's going to be, like you said, there's going to be a lot of transfers because of that.
One of the questions was,
Coach Reed, can I add 2 things to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think Coach is 100% right. I actually think he's right when he says there's going to be more misses, but I also feel like there's going to be some kids that maybe a higher level school would have gotten if they would have played their senior year, but because there's not a spot, they weren't able to play their senior year. There's going to be some kids that are going to end up at a Division II school that are going to be future All-Americans that maybe would have played Division I football if they would have gotten a chance to show what they could do. Also, I would add that, I don't think Luther North is going to be affected as much as other schools. And the reason that is because you continually produce good players. So what schools do is they're going to go to the places that they know the players are at. And we're going to go where we have players that have come. The kids that are really young are the kids at other programs that maybe aren't as traditional. The web cities, the resorts, those types of schools are going to get recruited. Where a kid at another type of school, he might not get looked at because of that information.
One of the next questions we're getting asked here is, coaches, do you think that with a lot of football being out, like in the state of Illinois, for example, Coach Hill, with them not being able to play high school currently, will 7-on-7 football be recruited more? Do you have to lean more on programs like the Midwest Boom that's based out of Illinois, that's putting on prospect camps and working with kids? Do you have to lean more on 7-on-7? Do you think that will be a boom in recruiting dealing with the 7-on-7 organizations, since the high schools are not being allowed to play?
No, I think that, we want to see him. We want to see him play football. That's how we are here. I think though, there's some good programs out there. We've signed kids from Midwest Boom that are here succeeding, and so. But I don't think that any of us are out there, putting on 7-on-7 film, if that's what the question that's being asked.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like what Coach was saying is that, I think we would all like to be in position to have a scholarship or two. Especially like here in Illinois, that they're going to play a spring season. There's going to be someone that's out there that's like, man, I wish that we could go get that kid right now, that plays in April. And like we talked about, as a completely different kid. But I think that ultimately, you want to evaluate them with pads on playing football.
So, guys, for you guys that's just getting in here, we on here with Coach Nick Hill with SIU Carbondale, the head football coach there. Coach Jeff Sims, the head football coach at Missouri Southern. A question that I have, and what's been my biggest deterrent from playing in the spring, is, Coach, how do you manage the safety of the kids? Do you guys really think that it's healthy for guys to play a spring season and then turn around and play again in the fall, a full season? How are we managing that from an impact standpoint on the kids' bodies? I know that from a high school coach, I felt like it would be really rough to play in the spring, turn around and play the kind of schedule we play in the fall, and then send those guys to college and have them prepared and healthy to play for you. That was one of my biggest concerns. I'll start with you on that, Coach Sims. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think me and you in some conversations have talked about this, and maybe a month ago or even longer, I may have told you that spring, I don't believe in a spring season. And I think it's a twofold question. You asked, do I think it's healthy for them to play in the spring? And in all honesty, I don't think it's a great decision to play in the spring and then play in the fall. But where I've changed over the last month, a month ago, I was saying, no way, we should do something. But I would tell you that our players, our kids, they really are immediate people. And next August is so far away They need to play football. They need to be involved. I believe in the sport of the football. I believe in the relationships. And I feel like that while it is not ideal to play in the spring, what I thought a month ago was you should play in the spring and you should play in the fall. I actually feel that the benefit of being a part of the team, relationships, being around each other, and playing the game that we love is probably better than not doing it. If this was up, I don't know if I'm right. I've never done this. And anybody who says they know, I think it's fine. So this is all new. I've changed in the last, and just because of relationships, I think our kids.
Coach Hill, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think that there's a perfect answer to it. I think that we have to lean on as far as the safety and the physicality goes, of the amount of time off. We've had a lot of discussions of all the head coaches in the Missouri Valley on this topic, just because we're playing a spring season and the amount of time that they have to have off after the season. I believe that it can be done. We're excited about the spring season. I'm with Coach Sims on the fact that I know that the time we were going to have a week 0 game, so we were the first team to come. We were playing Kansas, so we were the first team, one of like 6 teams in the country to start training camp, and then the ups and downs, and then we're not playing, and then we are playing, and then just seeing the emotional, mental health of our team through the 6 weeks that we were not playing football. And then are we playing a spring season? Are we not? And then the best that our guys have been, that like Coach was saying, with the relationships, the smiles on their faces, the class, the academic reports, the COVID-19 precautions, everybody doing exactly what they're supposed to do, is because we're playing a game. Because we put one game on the schedule, and the focus and the camaraderie and everything is back. I think, like what Coach said, if we went an entire calendar year without football, I think that there would be a lot worse things happening across college football that you can't put your finger on. I mean, they need that structure. I do think that we can turn around and now there's got to be some protocols put in place on maybe how many padded practices. You talk to, the Ivy League has some things, how many contact days. I think that when you look at it too, when we have a team of 100 players, and how many reps those kids take too. So we're talking about even smaller percentage of your guys, where there's going to be over half our team that probably, during a season, we practice on Monday or Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Monday's our day off. We practice on Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday's a walkthrough. Fast Friday doesn't have any pads on. We play on Saturday. Sunday's a developmental practice. So if you're not in the 1s or 2s, or say you take 15 or less reps, the amount of wear and tear on your body isn't as much. Now, those guys, we're going to take a rep count. So, I mean, if you're a middle linebacker and we go to the national championship and play 13 games and you've been wearing and tearing, then we've got to really monitor that kid. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to be monitoring every single kid on your team, and what has been the rep count on him. How much do we need to rest him? We need to monitor him. So it's going to be collective, but we all got to do our job on that and lead on our doctors and trainers.
Coach Sims, I'm going to start this question with you. And I think this is something that I experienced this summer and this spring, really, when this first started with a lot of my players that are in college. A lot of these guys that you recruit from all over the country, both of you, they do everything they can do to get to college, and then suddenly they're sent home, and they're not engaging with the team. They're not getting a chance to play football games and compete. And some of them are having to go back home to some really rough areas and rough situations that they work very hard to get themselves out of. How are you dealing with those guys' mental health? All right. And how are you talking to them and kind of counseling them through these situations from a mental health standpoint?
Well, I'm going to take part of what Coach Hill said and answer this question because he's right, and I know exactly what you're saying. While health professionals say we shouldn't be, we should social distance, we should do all these things because of football, but I would tell you that I truly believe that we would do a better job against COVID if we were playing and if we were lifting weights and if we were active because our players listen to us in that structure. But if you cut them loose, they then listen to everybody, and a game will keep them focused. A purpose will keep them focused. They'll put the mask on. They'll stay away from each other because they want to play that game and they want to be a part of their team. They want to be a part of their program. They'll go to class. They'll do those things. People, for some reason, think football coaches want to win. I've been coaching 27 years. I truly have never met a football coach that got into coaching for winning. They get into coaching because of the relationships they had as a player, and then they experience those. We all want to win competitive people, and winning keeps the structure. And so winning makes the guy keep a mask on because he wants to try to win next week, the week after. And so I believe that our grades would be better, our COVID response would be better, all if we try to go back to normal versus letting guys who've never had structure, have unlimited time and things like that, all of a sudden just do their thing. And now coaches are scared to tell them things because if we say something that's against what the health professionals say, then we don't care about our guys. So we try to make purposeful health decisions, but I don't know that it's always best for mental health. How healthy can it be, Carl, to sit in your dorm room for 14 days? It can't be. I don't care what anybody says. I have been quarantined. I had to stay in a 5,000 square foot for 14 days. And I thought it was the worst thing ever. And so it don't make no sense. But you were near somebody who was sick, so you go sit for 14 days. It don't make no sense.
Coach Hill, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think a couple things. Sitting, talking about the mental health of your players. I think every coach in the country has went through that and has real concerns. I'm with Coach Sims. I mean, we've had not just 14 days. We've had multiple players be on their second and sometimes third quarantines, and these are going to the dorm room. You can't go outside. You can't go for a walk. Think about your first experience as a college, student, and we're however many weeks into the semester, 8 weeks, and you've spent 32 days in a 5x5 room. That's concerning. That's alarming. It's tough. It's not even tough. I mean, it's as a coach, you've been. You like Coach said, you have your hands tied of what you could really say because you're disagreeing with public health officials. But it's not that we all agree we want to do what's safe, but I also don't want to lose sight of the mental health, the well-being of them. So we've had tons of talks with parents, players. There's been on the mental health side, I think this is Mental Health Awareness Month. We have a student athlete that's really taken it and ran with it. Our starting punter Jack Calhoun, he's from Australia. We just got out of practice, and we had a talk afterwards. He addressed the team. He set up speakers for the all 350 student athletes, and really working on the men's side of mental health, and talking to guys. And you've seen it with Dak Prescott coming out. It's like we're so ingrained that it's not okay to say we're not okay. And he used his example. He's from Australia. He said, I might not see my parents till 2022 with COVID-19. I can't go back home. They can't come over here and watch me play because of the travel restrictions and then quarantining. And if I want to play, I don't get to see him. And he was like, that's mentally messed with me. And, just letting them have a space to open up. We have a sports psychologist. That's our senior women's administrator. That's what she does. She runs that here on campus. And we have several kids. They know she comes over. She's in the building all the time. And just even getting them to have the courage to be like, it's okay to go and meet and making that okay, because it is. People are struggling all across the country with this. And like, it starts with that. I mean, you think that it's like, hey, go suck it up in quarantine. Well, if you're struggling and then you have to go in quarantine, I'm seriously, that's been a bigger worry of mine than anything else, is that these kids having to stay in their rooms for long periods of time, 18 to 22-year-olds that are struggling with other things.
So, Coach Hill, how are you guys handling academic check-ins? Because most every kid is doing online classes now, right?
Yeah.
And we're not being able to bring them in the study hall and whatnot. How are you doing academic check-ins? How are we getting guys the tutoring that they need and the academic support that they need to continue to work towards graduation?
Yeah, it's been all hands on deck, really. I told our staff when we started the semester is that we have a great academic support staff. Today, Thursday, 9:30, academic meeting, go through everybody. We've got 3 academic coordinators that work with football, offensively, defensively, and then somebody that's with the freshmen. And then their position coach is even more than they ever have been involved. So with COVID-19 and with our academic centers and trying to keep people apart and doing those different things. So our school's done a good job. We're fortunate with great facilities, with great space. So we have our individual times that we are in our academic building, just football only. And then we have it put in different position groups. And then if they've had that, if they're struggling with a class, or if they have to be on a class online, but at a certain time, we're allowed to let them do that in our academic or in our building. So we can class check them per se doing that. And so we've sent out our academic reports too. Today, for example, one of them was they missed attendance, and it's a missed class because his screen wasn't on and he didn't say here when he was supposed to say here. And we found, so that's a miss. It's like this right here. It's just like we would be in a team meeting. It's the cameras on, and it's you're looking at and you're showing respect. And so, but it's tough. It's different, but that can't be the answer anymore to anything. That it's tough and it's different. We want things to go back the way they were. We got to find a way. And this has got to be a great semester for us academically. We're off to a good start, but we got to it's all hands on deck.
Coach Sims, how have you guys had to pivot academically with your academic check-ins and support system at Missouri Southern?
Well, I would offer to you the positives and the negatives of what we're going through right now. The positive is because we're not playing right now, the coaches are more into academics than they ever have been, and so we have 2 academics where coach has 3, but in truth, with us not playing, we have about 19 academic advisors because all the coaches are involved more than they ever have been. And that's the positive. But here's the negative, is when you talk about the COVID and the quarantine. So a young man gets quarantined, now he has to go to his room He's not supposed to meet with anybody, but his teachers are going to teach him online. Well, what if he's a guy who needs tutors? What if he's a guy who needs someone to proofread things? It adds an additional hurdle that just really is a challenge at times. And I will tell you, this is what I tell players. I tell them, let's the professors are starting to get over quarantine and COVID. They're tired of making exceptions, and they're starting to say, well, if you're in quarantine, you have all the time to do it. In theory, they have all the time to do it, but they don't have a tutor sitting right there motivating them and helping them. And so it is an academic challenge, and our coaches really have went over and above to help our guys. But as you said, if you're not playing and you're not making relationships, here's a secret, Coach Reed. A lot of our guys go out to play football and we trick them into an education. Okay. Well, we're not able to trick them right now. And so now do they see the purpose? And so it's a challenge, but coaches love challenges. And I know that at every institution, they're working really hard to help the guys succeed.
Coach, so one of the things that I got, Coach Hill, I want to ask you first on this one is if you're a class of 2021 guy that's not playing right now, you either in St. Louis, you're in the state of Illinois. What is your advice to those recruits? How can they possibly, if at all, get themselves on the radar to get an opportunity in a situation that seems like it's really affecting them in a negative way in terms of finding opportunities? What advice would you have for a young man right now?
Yeah, I don't know if I've got a great answer for them as far as something that they can, magically go out and film themselves and send them to them and do those things. I think over communicating and staying persistent, is something that you have to do. I wish that there was a better answer than that. I would say that it's life, as we all know, it is it's not always going to go the way that you want. And you can look at across town and see people going and it's unfair and all of those things, but at the moment they can't control that, and you get tired of hearing control what you can control. But I believe finding a peace in themselves to know that they're at some point they're going to look back and be able to connect the dots on why COVID and not playing their senior year or the fall of their senior year or junior year or sophomore year has them in their life where they're at right now. And I think that you can be better for that in the tough times. I think that I've talked to our team about that. The guys that are returning for their senior year, you're going to look back in 10 years and be like, if it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't be married to this person. I wouldn't have these kids. I wouldn't have, and you're going to look back and there's going to be positives right in the middle of the storm. A lot of times there's not, but it's still, you got to wake up. And if you really want to play college football and not just talk about it, you've got to get up and go to work and lift and be ready for whatever opportunity, when that opportunity arises. Stay persistent, continue to communicate if there was people recruiting you before, and then be ready to be good whenever that opportunity comes. And like you continue to put out there and tell people, if you really want to play college football, there's great educations at a lot of different levels. If you really want to play, then there is a college football team that you can play for. And there's a great education that goes along with that at a lot of different levels. And Coach hit on it. You hit on it all the time. You're not all going to Mizzou. You might not be playing FCS or Division II, but you can still play college football. And we all know that playing the game is what's fun. I learned that whenever I kept trying to play and got cut in the NFL, and I went and played Arena 2. We're on sleeper buses and we're going to play in Amarillo and all that. And man, it was fun because I was taking snaps and I was throwing the football and we were in the locker room celebrating. And so if you really love to play, well, There's going to be somewhere for you to play.
Coach, you there? Coach Sims? I think his Coach Sims has went back out. And coach, when you talk about the different levels of guys at at college football, I don't think a lot of guys realize when you start talking about how many programs there are that play college football. You know, and one thing I'm always trying to tell our guys is that if you don't have a D1 opportunity, you got FCS, you got Division Two, you got Division Three, you got NAI, and I don't think a lot of people, because they're not on ESPN as much, realize how good of a brand of football those schools play.
Without, I mean, with great brands of football, up and down. I mean, great coaches, great institutions. I mean, really, when you look a lot of, I mean, when you play Division III football, I mean, you're going to a high academic institution with probably all of these schools. I mean, if they're a college with a funded football program, they probably have some history, some unbelievable opportunities to play and get a great education. And like you said, I mean, it's an opportunity to play football, and so that is out there, and there's great, it's great football. You know, I hired Jason Petrino as our defensive coordinator, Jared Petrino as our special teams coordinator. They're outstanding coaches, and Jason was the head coach at Rocky Mountain College in Montana, the NAIA school. And Jared was the special defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator. And they come here and they could coach in the SEC tomorrow. I mean, they're great coaches, and that's who you're going to be coached by at all the levels.
Coach, have you been following? I know a lot of the high school coaches and kids in Illinois are doing the Let Us Play. They've been having rallies and protests throughout the state. Have you been keeping up with that and the progress of that? And to your knowledge, does it look like they're making any traction at all with potentially being able to play in Illinois this fall?
Yeah, I have. I've been following Sunk and talked to Coach Leonard on the phone, and you know, I said my piece before they, you know, even had the rally and stuff, that I believe they should play. I'm talking about it. I'm Carbondale High School coach, 2013, and I live here. I'm entrenched in these communities. My hometown, DuQuoin, Illinois, is 20 minutes up the road. I know what it means to these communities. I know what it means to these kids. I can't imagine being a senior and not playing small, you know, or any level high school football. I say this to our team all the time. I say it to recruits all the time. I say it to recruits when they talk about not wanting to play another sport. Like, I'm like, hey, should I play basketball or not? It's like, heck yeah, you should play. Go enjoy being a student athlete at your high school and representing that high school and putting Lutheran North on no matter what. Go compete. That's what I want to see you do. And so I don't know if it's gaining traction with the powers that be. I know their voices are being heard, and they've done a great job of doing that, doing it, you know, out of respect, you know, and following guidelines and do that. But there's some outstanding coaches in the state that you know, that are doing a good job leading, in my opinion, and showing the guys and the students here in Illinois that they got their back, I think. But I don't know if that it's gonna allow them to change their mind or not, like some of these other states.
So, coach, has the NCAA given you guys any clarity on when you will be able to start recruiting again off campus at the Division I level? I know they pushed the dead period back again, I think, to the beginning of January. How does that affect you with the early signing period? You can't have guys come on campus and take visits, but you still have that early signing period right there. Have you guys gotten any clarity or direction on what you need to do in terms of moving forward with recruiting and off-campus recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, you find out, like when we find out. I mean, it was going to be month to month, and then all of a sudden they skipped ahead a couple months on us. So, I don't know. I don't know how, like, Coach Sims is in the car recruiting, and Division 2, it's safe, but Division 1, it's not. And some people can have, it's like this now. You're not able to play, but people down the road can. It's safe for Division 2 school in our state to have recruits on campus, but it's not safe for us to have. So I would hope in January and February, but yeah, I mean, early signing day, there's no pushing that back. The signing days are going to stay the exact same. And so that's what, going back to the previous questions about, evaling, are you going to sign a kid that you've never seen and have their families on campus and got those relationships and doing those things. So we've really, we're being diligent in, who we're going. And so hopefully one of these times we're going to get some good news and we're going to get back out on the road seeing kids safely. Hopefully it's sooner than later.
Now, in that position, do you still sign a guy anyway in December, or do you kind of wait? Is your strategy more to wait until the spring signing period in February and hope and try to see if you can get an opportunity to sit down with guys, or what's your focus on that?
Well, again, I feel like if we know the player and feel confident that they're good for SIU, then we're going to sign them, and that's where we feel confident with the guys that we have committed right now. They fit that. They're guys that we've known, that we've recruited, that we've seen, that our evals are of that, and they've been on campus, and so. There are fewer guys out there that we're still on that have those boxes checked. So we talk about it's going to be a smaller signing class. I think the one thing that you have to do right now is I've told our staff over any is recruit as hard as you can, especially if there's a kid there that fits what we want, and the eval is there, that of programs like yourself that we know and have personal relationships with the high school coach, that they're going to give you an honest, and because right now you're going to have to lean on them heavily for some of that extra stuff. You're not going to see them in the spring and just all the different things. So I mean, going to those established high school programs that you really trust the coach, you maybe have players on your team from there, what you're getting from that standpoint, so we put an emphasis on that as well.
And so Coach Sims kind of touched on that a little bit earlier too. And with you and your situation, how can you stress how important it is, the relationship between the high school coach and the college coach, and how beneficial that can be to help the kids if the high school coach is being very diligent in building those relationships, always having honesty and integrity throughout the recruiting process, and how that can put the kids in a position where they're better off in terms of the opportunities that they have.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, honestly, once you've consistently done it at the same place and gotten to know the high school coaches, that really there's some off of their word, you're probably going to offer that kid. When you get an eval or a call or coach, hey, this kid 100%, you want to take him, and so it's because they also know, like yourself. I mean, you're going to, that kid's going to come to your campus, and you're going to come back just like we have to come back to your school if one of your kids has a terrible experience with us as a coach, or maybe coaches come in and pull an offer or something like that on one of your kids, and don't have the integrity the other way, then that relationship's broken. And so high school coaches the same way. you take one of their kids and trust their evaluation. So I think it goes both ways. But right now, I mean, it is huge right now as far as trusting those high school coaches that you have excellent relationships with, of just trusting the information that you're getting.
Coach Sims, we're talking about right now how important during COVID, when you're not allowed to be out on the road in high schools, when kids aren't allowed to be on campus as much, how important is the relationship between the college coach and the high school coach, and how can it impact those kids in the program if the high school coach has a great relationship with the college coaches, as opposed to being in a situation where that's not the case. As that's something that can really help the kid right now if he's not getting to play. Your relationship and integrity with the college coaches.
Hey, I'd like to take that question and correlate it with the question that you asked when I lost the connection, was what could kids do now? I would tell kids that as they look at being recruited, good football programs want to know information about you. Bad football programs watch huddle tape and then they just call you. All right. When you're being evaluated for recruiting, a good program is going to want to talk to your high school coach. They're going to want to talk to your counselor. They're going to want to know as much about you. I was fortunate enough to coach at Indiana, and one of the big things that I learned at Indiana was that, a lot of times in recruiting, we would get a kid to commit, and then we would take them to meet the head football coach. And at some programs, then everybody celebrates. Well, when I worked for Kevin Wilson, who's now the offensive coordinator at Ohio State, if you came in his office to commit, his first question to you would not be like, awesome, great. He'd go, why do you want to play at Indiana University? Because he would say to him, listen, I know we want to celebrate you coming here, but what's most important is that you're great in that locker room and you're great in that classroom. So as young people are being recruited, really look for, I think, Carl, that a lot of kids chase levels. And yeah, I'm the D2 coach in this conversation, but Coach Hill will recruit against bigger Division I schools. I really think it's important, find the coach that's working for you, because the guy that works for you will work for you when you're his player, because he cares about you. He's invested in you. And I would tell you that if a coach is not talking to your high school coach, if he's not talking to your counselors, if he's not talking to your parents, if he's not trying to gather as much information about you, he either isn't that interested in you, or he's not really that good a coach. And so you want someone that is reaching out. One of the questions we ask all high school coaches is, would you want to coach this guy if you were on our staff? Like we want the high school coach to say, yes, I want this guy to be a part of our program again. And that's really important. But I will tell you, you got to ask those questions, because high school coaches do not ding their players. All right. Now they will answer questions that are asked. So if you have done things that your high school coach is going to be honest about that aren't good, you need to overcome those. I would like to say, what can high school kids do now? This is what I would do if I was a 2021 player. First off, don't look at what's going on right now as a negative. Look at what's going on now as a positive, because you have an opportunity to separate yourself from the pretenders. All right. If you really want to be a college football player, study, get your grades right, so that when we come in, we can see that, man, this guy's not going to be work. He's going to do the things that we ask him to do when he comes to our campus. Work out. You don't necessarily have to have a gym. You don't have to have a coach to work out. Do push-ups, run hills. So when other guys right now aren't working out because of what's going on, you are in shape and you are looking good. Separate yourself. Now, I would tell guys that a lot of times we do get film on phones and a dad videotape something. Don't videotape yourself playing catch in the backyard. Don't videotape. What you want to videotape yourself is yourself showing athleticism. Okay. In a weird way, I'm going to try to get my point across. Look at a championship coach as a chef, and he's looking for great ingredients for his team. All right. Show him that you have the athleticism that when he gets to your football program, he can find a place for you. We really don't care that you were the high school quarterback or you were the high school wide receiver. What we want is we want the best football players that we can find, and then we'll develop them into what they need to be. So get your grade, be in great shape, and if you want to create your own film, create it in a way that it shows your athleticism. If you can dunk a basketball, rattle the rim and show the coaches that. Show athleticism, because give me a great athlete and we'll figure the football part out.
Mm-hmm. What right now, so that's the player. So let's say I'm a high school coach, but I'm not at a powerhouse program. I'm getting started. I'm young. I'm building my program, or I might only have one or two guys every now and then. But I got some guys that I think are good enough, but they're not playing. What can the high school coach do? How can he reach out to you? What can the high school coach do to help his kid right now in that situation if he's really trying to be proactive? I'm getting a lot of high school coaches that are DMing me on Twitter and they're asking me for my advice and for my help in terms of what can they do right now to get their kids that aren't playing in front of college coaches and being a part of the recruiting process.
Okay, well, you asked me the question. I'm going to give you the answer that I believe, and maybe they won't agree with me, but I really believe this. Don't promote all your players at the same time. Find your best player, promote him. All right. And then get people to come see him. If 10 coaches come to see him, only one can get him. Now you have 9 guys that have come, and now they're there, and it gives you an opportunity to show other guys. A lot of times when I'm recruiting, a high school coach will call me up and he'll say, "Coach, I got some players for you." And I'll go, "Well, what do you got?" And he'll go, "What do you need?" Well, I don't believe that's the way to approach it. What you should do is you should call me and say, "Coach, I have some players. Player A is my best player. He's my best grades, my hardest worker, this, that, and whatever. I think you need to take a look at him." You got a lot better chance that I'm going to look at one guy if you send him to me than I am if I'm going to look at 7 guys. And if you send me 7 guys and I go through 2 or 3 of them and they're not very good, I lose interest on looking at the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and 7th one. Get me interested. I promise you, and having been a junior college guy and having gotten guys recruited, if I can get you interested in one, now you believe that I know what I'm talking about. And so now then I start showing the next one, and I start showing the next one. And that will help. Now, I would say if you want to show more than one, show your best offensive lineman and show your best skill guy, because now you got your big body guy and you got your athlete. "Coach, what are you looking for? Do you need linemen or do you need skill guys?" "Well, I need skill guys." "Okay, well, here's this guy. He's my captain. He's got great grades. What do you think of him, Coach?" And then I go, wow, he's really good. And, or, yeah, he's just not more of it. Well, would you be interested in alignment? Don't throw 20 players at a college coach, because no offense to anyone, all right? No college coach, I want to say this the right way because I'm trying to be helpful and honest. No college coach thinks 20 of your players can play on his team, all right? So if you think they can, prove it to them one at a time.
Absolutely. So the next part, now you're a parent also, and I'm a parent, and I've had a couple kids play college football myself in terms of being a dad. There's a lot of parents right now who feel the pressure through this COVID pandemic of them wanting to help as much as they can. And that can be a sticky situation. But what advice would you give to a parent right now on the best thing they can do for their child in terms of handling recruiting during the COVID pandemic?
Okay. You asked me as a dad, and I happen to be a football coach. First off, just love your kid and it all work out. Okay. Because it's my job to find your son. And we find them. Now, do we find them at the pace and that you would like and things like that? Here's the thing. If I could look a parent right in the eye, all right, college football is really, really hard. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of commitment. Make sure that your son wants to play. Make sure, if you want to help your son, tell him to get good grades. If you want to help your son, give him a workout and make him do it. Don't cheerlead him. You don't need a personal trainer to be a good football coach or a good football player. Go run hills, do push-ups. Guys that love football figure out how to get on the yard. The thing about it is, get his grades right. Parents, if you're listening to me, have a great relationship with a high school coach. And I don't mean buddy. If your son doesn't play well, tell him to figure out how to play well. Figure it out. Look, if your son is a defensive player, the goal is to tackle the football. Go get the ball. Go get it and make plays. If your son's an offensive football player, tell him to get in the end zone. Period. That's what it is. That's what we're looking for, the best player on the field in high school. Only a small percentage of guys go from high school to college. And if your son doesn't, then let's find his passion in music, in art, in whatever it is. Carl, the thing that is really discouraging sometimes is when we get kids that when you go out there, you find out they really don't love it. They have always done it. They started playing when they were 7. They liked the kids on their team, so they played when they're 8, 9, 10. Then they became a freshman, and then they became a sophomore, and they liked their guys, and they do like football. But do they love it? Do they watch it? Do they study it? Do they do push-ups? Do they drink their glass of milk? Do they, if their coach tells them to run 10 hills, do they roll their eyes or go run 10 hills? Carl, you love football. I love football. I tell our players all the time, football's recess. If you aren't excited about football practice, you probably need to find something you are excited about. And so parents, make sure they have good grades. Make sure they have a workout so they can work out. Make sure they're listening to their high school football coach. Tell them to get ball on defense and get in the end zone on offense. And I swear to you, we'll find them.
Coach, that's great advice for the parents, guys. Once again, I'm sitting here with Coach Nick Hill, head coach at SIU Carbondale, Coach Jeff Sims, coach at Missouri Southern. And Coach Sims, you have a very, very interesting outlook on it because you've been on both sides. You're a head college coach now at Missouri Southern, but you also have ran several nationally ranked and championship junior college programs. So you've had to deal with that in terms of the advice that you're giving. And so it's a really, really good deal. One of the last things I'm going to ask you, before we get out of here and before we let it go is how committed, and you talked about loving football, so you touched on it a little bit. Explain to a young man how committed he has to be to make it through 4 years of college football, with the academics, with the toughness of it. How committed do you really have to be to make it through that grind?
I'll kind of give you two quick examples. Here's the first thing that I would say to you. I want if on the worst day of football, the worst day, everything's going wrong, school's going wrong, coaches are yelling at you, you're not playing well, your grades are bad, things back home are bad. Like, think of the worst possible scenario. If you still want to play football then more than do anything else, that's when you want to be a college football player, because it is look, I had a parent tell me that their son was hardworking, and I believe they were. I believe he was a very hardworking high school football player, and I believe he was a great kid and great student and a wonderful human being. But when we go out to football practice, now I want to see how hard a worker you are. And understand, it's not how hard a worker you are, it's how hard a worker you are versus everybody else on that field. Mm-hmm. Carl, if me and you were teammates, I would love you. You'd be my buddy. We would practice together and this and that. But on game day, I only got one wish for you. You get to watch me make plays, brother. Mm-hmm. That's like, and it's a competition. Yeah. My best friends when I played college football were defensive backs who I went against in practice, and they held me and they grabbed me, and every day they made me better because I had to compete with them every day. Great college football players fight their best friends during practice. Mm-hmm. And it's the truth. And then when practice is over, we walk off and, hey, man, thanks for getting me better today and stuff like that. What the problem is there's a lot of kids nowadays that co-sign with each other. Man, it's hot out here. Yeah, it's hot. Man, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm tired. Like, bro, football is recess. We talked about quarantine earlier. Man, putting a real football player in quarantine, that's like putting a caged animal in a room. Like, we don't like being in a room. We want to work. Our team right now is working out. We had 5 a.m. workout this morning. All right. I wake up at 4 o'clock like it's Christmas because, like, my favorite people are going to be somewhere at 5 o'clock. Let's go work out together. Let's go make each other better, this and that. But the people who go, man, it's cold, it's early, it's that, like, you're going to get ate up. It's not. I've coached a ton of NFL football players, and I'm telling you, the common trait between NFL football players that make it and talented people who don't is, football is ice cream, man. You never have enough. There's 2 great, so we're both from St. Louis. There's 2 great wrestlers from Wentzville, Missouri. It's Nick and Tony Perler, and they train Perler wrestling. Okay. And this is not going to be a popular statement. So if people don't like it, one of the Perlers said it. Coach Sims didn't say it. Here's the quote. He said, "Burnout's for losers." Yeah. Like, look, man, I never get sick of my favorite food. I love football. And on my worst day, I might be mad. I might not, but I still want to do ball, man. But here's the deal. It really isn't the sport, Coach Reed. And you know it. It's the guys. It's the competition. It's us versus them, you know. And when you won a state title, and when you've went from the first day of, not even August, like when you got to Luther North and you were hired as the head coach, and these kids and their parents believed in you and came to your school, and you lifted weights and you study hall and you do all this, and you inch and you inch and you inch and you make it to that, and everybody together had a piece of that. That's why you jump around, man. And I'm going to tell you, once you felt it, there ain't nothing like it, man. And you chase it every single day, and you love helping the dudes. And I'm just telling you, man, if you're watching this, you're like, Coach Sims, he's crazy, then you ain't a college football player, bro.
Yeah. So my last question of the night for you, and then we're going to get off of here.
Yes, sir.
If you were sitting in the room with the people that are making the decision on the kids in St. Louis not playing, what everybody else in the state is playing, but the kids in St. Louis County right now are not allowed to play. And if you were sitting in the room with the decision maker, what would you say to him in terms of trying to get him to understand why these kids need to be out here on the field playing football right now?
All right. Well, you know, Carl, you asked me something like that, and most head coaches that, you know, they give their little head coach podium talk and stuff like that. But you went to Hazelwood Central. I went to Pattonville. Yeah. I'm from North County. My wife's from North County. You're asking me a question. If I was sitting in the room with the decision makers on these kids in North County, like my dudes, all right, that's what I tell them. My wife's name is Dr. Lisa Sims. She has 3 college degrees. I have 3 college degrees. We're the first people in our families to graduate from college. My dad was in federal penitentiary my life when I grew up in St. Louis. My wife grew up in a very tough situation. If it wasn't for a football, I would have never gone to college. Wouldn't even thought about it. I did not go to college to get a degree. I went to college to play football, and God blessed me with tremendous football coaches who tricked me into an education. Because I was able to get my degrees, I was able to get a job at a university. When you work at a university, your family gets to go to college for free. My wife was then able to go to college, and she's gotten her degrees. 6 college degrees, plus my sons are going to college. My daughter is a straight A student. She'll go to college. I could argue with you that football is paid for 9 college degrees for a kid whose dad was married 5 times, mom was married twice, a woman who I love and is awesome and incredible, but grew up in North County with me. If you would have canceled football, I would have gotten arrested. Guarantee it. I promise you. And I'm not proud of that. It's just this energy's got to go somewhere. And when you're 17, look, man, I don't want to sit in history class, listen to the teacher who gave us a worksheet and is reading the newspaper. And man, I ain't sitting in this class. I'm gonna go for a walk, and that walk's gonna lead to something. Why? Because we're bored and we live. And bro, I'm just telling you, at 18, man, I thought North County was the world. And I thought everybody was like us. Guys, if you let them play, it will be safer in every single way. Even if you argue, well, you need a mask, you need a social distance. they will mask because the high school coaches will require it and they will listen. They will social distance because their coaches will require it and listen. You may not like it, but they listen to us. Let the coaches coach them. Let the kids play. I promise it'll help them academically. I promise it'll save lives. I mean it. I promise.
Coach, I want to thank you for coming on. I also want to thank Nick Hill. We're going to end our live tonight. I appreciate you taking the time. And Coach, I hope I'm calling you here soon, letting you know that they're letting us get back after it. And
if you do, our coaches are ready to be in cars. We actually are not recruiting St. Louis yet because we're waiting on the county schools, because we don't want to go up there and some schools not be going, then have to come again. So we're actually waiting for you guys, and then we're bringing the entire staff, and we're going to be all over St. Louis. We signed 16 guys last year, and we're going to hit the ground running again.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. Good night.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you.